Hey guys, so as you can see, that's the moon behind me. Just have a phone camera, so unfortunately you're not going to get a very good view of it, but the moon is one of my favorite pieces of God's creation to look at. And when it's a clear night, especially, the winter time is usually the most clear time out of the year, but it's just so wonderful to look at a nice, full, beautiful moon. So if you guys have never stayed up late enough to do that, or you just, don't bother looking up, you should change that, because, that is beautiful. That's just, it's beautiful. All right, well, anyway, moving into the light here. Today our passage is Matthew chapter 26, verses 57 to 68. And if you recall, we just got through the part where Jesus gets arrested. So he has now been arrested and he is on trial. So that's where we're going to pick up to this week. So starting in verse 57, it says, "Those who had arrested Jesus took him to Caiaphas, the high priest, where the teachers of the law and the elders had assembled. But Peter followed him at a distance, right up to the courtyard of the high priest. He entered and sat down with the guards to see the outcome." That'll be important for next week. "The chief priests and the whole Sanhedrin," that's like the Jewish spiritual leadership type people, that was like the closest they got to any kind of government, because they were under Roman law at the time. So the whole Sanhedrin were looking for false evidence against Jesus so that they could put him to death. That's right, you heard correctly. The religious leaders, the holy people, the spiritual people, were looking for false evidence against Jesus. Yeah. So that they could put him to death. But they did not find any, though many false witnesses came forward. Finally, 2 came forward and declared, "This fellow said, 'I am able to destroy the temple of God and rebuild it in 3 days.'" He did say that, sort of. You can look back and check it out. Then the high priest stood up and said to Jesus, "Are you not going to answer? What is this testimony that these men are bringing against you?" But Jesus remained silent. The high priest said to him, "I charge you under oath by the living God. Tell us if you are the Christ, the Son of God." "Yes, it is as you say," Jesus replied. "But I say to all of you, in the future, you will see the Son of Man sitting at the right hand of the Mighty One and coming on the clouds of heaven." Then the high priest tore his clothes and said, "He has spoken blasphemy. Why do we need any more witnesses? Look, now you have heard the blasphemy. What do you think?" "He is worthy of death," they answered. Then they spit in his face and struck him with their fists. Others slapped him and said, "Prophesy to us, Christ, who hit you?" And that's actually where we're going to stop. Seems like a bit of an abrupt ending, but that is where we're going to stop for today. A little note, actually. So Jesus' reply there, he says, "Yes, it is as you say." So he confirms, yep, I'm the Son of God. That's as you say, you're right. But then he continues and he says, "In the future, you will see the Son of Man sitting at the right hand of the Mighty One and coming on the clouds of heaven." If you flip forward to Acts, I want to say it's chapter 7. Yes. So if you flip forward to Acts chapter 7, just go ahead and read verse 56, but you should really read that entire section. So Acts chapter 7, verse 56, go look it up. But what happens is, this is about 2 months after Jesus' death and resurrection, and 2 months after he says this to the Sanhedrin. And in Acts, that is one of the disciples named Stephen, who is about to get stoned, and not the drug kind, but like the dead kind. And he looks up to heaven and he literally tells all the Sanhedrin, he's like, "Hey guys, I see Jesus standing at the right hand of God in the clouds of heaven." Like, all the thing that Jesus has said, in the future you'll see this, Stephen says it 2 months later. And he sees him up there with God. And it's just like, oh, you should check out the Sanhedrin's response. They do the little, like, close their ears, la 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 thing. It's hilarious. Anyway, that just made my day when I was reading through this. But anyway, so in this passage, we have a couple things going on, but mostly it's Jesus goes on trial before the religious leaders. Like that's what happens. And there's a couple things I want us to notice. Number one, they're specifically looking for false evidence against Jesus. Like that's what they want. They're looking to accuse him for whatever they can find to put him to death. And it literally says they did not find any. They're looking for false evidence. They bring forth false witnesses. And in light of all of that, they still can't find anything against Jesus that is worthy of putting him to death. That says a lot about Jesus' life, guys. Like if you didn't believe that Jesus lived a perfect life, this is proof that he did. When people try to make up stuff about you, it's not too hard to make stuff up. You take a little bit of this, you take a little bit of that, you mix it together and boom, you got false evidence. They tried to do that with Jesus and it didn't work. They tried to make up lies and even the lies weren't believable. That is how exemplary a life Jesus led. The second thing I want us to notice is that in the midst of all this, they're making all these false accusations, they're trying to make lies about him and all this stuff. They're accusing him of things. And what is Jesus' response? Nothing. He's silent. He doesn't answer them. He doesn't give them the satisfaction of an answer because he knows they're making stuff up. He knows that they're just bringing forth false accusations. And so it literally says, Jesus remained silent. And the last part that I want us to notice is that, especially with the Pharisees, the teachers of the law, the high priest even, they're told the truth. They ask if Jesus is the Son of God, and he says yes. And they just don't believe it. He tells them the truth, and they reject it. They reject the truth. And so what I want us to take out of this passage is those same things. Number one, to think about what kind of a life do you lead? If someone was trying to make stuff up about you and call you out on things and point out all the bad things that you're doing or make up bad things that you're doing, would people believe them? Or would they not? Is your reputation such that if someone said you lied, would they believe you? Or, I'm sorry, would they believe that you were a liar? Or are you such an honest person that they're like, no, Michael is an honest person. He wouldn't have lied about that. Jesus led the kind of life, and of course, he's the Son of God, so he was perfect. But he led the kind of life where when they tried to make up lies about him, they just weren't believable. Because people knew the kind of life that he led. So what kind of a life are you living? What kind of a reputation do you have among people? The second thing is dealing with all the false accusations. You know, when people come against us and they try to point out all the bad things going on in our life, or they try to make up stuff about us, how do we respond? Do we get angry and yell at them? Do we throw things across the room? Do we get stressed out and concerned? Do we cry? Do we curl up in a ball on the floor in the fetal position? Like, what do you do? And I would argue that we should respond like Jesus did, with silence. There's no need to answer false accusations. There's no reason to fight against people lying about you. Just stay silent. Don't add to the controversy. Don't add to the arguments, and don't add to the quarrel and the anger that's there. And then finally, the last thing I just want us to quickly take out of this is looking at the people, like the high priest's response. There are going to be people who just won't accept the truth. They just won't. They're not going to listen to what we have to say. They're not going to accept who Jesus is. And they might even get angry about it. They might start yelling. They might start plugging their ears and going la 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 la, like the Sanhedrin did. Some people just won't accept the truth. And we have to understand that. But that can't make us be afraid of telling the truth. Jesus knew that they weren't going to accept it. He knew that he was going to die by claiming to be God. He knew he was telling the truth, and they didn't believe him. And he knew that they weren't going to believe him, but that didn't stop him from speaking the truth. And that can't stop us. We can't let fear of death, fear of rejection, fear of being uncomfortable stop us from speaking the truth. So speak the truth. And that's it. I'm out. See you guys.